And good afternoon. My name is Ryan Belmore, and I'm the owner and publisher of What's Up Noop. And we have kicked off our conversations with the candidates. This is a format that we've used really COVID. Have to give them credit. Senator Lou DePalma a couple of years ago, the first election season through COVID, said, people can't go door to door. This is you should consider interviewing people this way. It's a great way. We found that it's a great way to introduce the candidates to you instead of just asking 1 2 minute questions. You really don't get to know them. So our hope is this series that we are doing all month in October. We have about 70 of these to do. I'm on number 2. So heading in the right direction. You get a chance to know the candidates. Probably more importantly, you get a chance to know one of your neighbors. And really excited. Today is 2 newcomers. And our second one here is Stephanie Smyth, and Stephanie or Steph Smyth. And hello, it's so good to see you.
Hi, good to see you too. Thank you for this opportunity. It's my first online interview, so I'm a little nervous and a little excited.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
you are one of the names that came across back in June that I was like a newcomer, which, always get excited about newcomers getting involved in politics. Let's start with, who are you?
So I'm a born and raised Newporter. I have lived here my whole life. I actually have very deep roots in the community. My family goes back about 8 generations, so I feel as though that has kind of given me a little inside scoop to the ins and outs and ups and downs of Newport. I currently work over at the Naval Undersea Warfare Center. I'm a contracting officer and contracts negotiator. I've been there. I have my 17th year anniversary last month. I've dabbled in a little bit of construction contracting here and there, but I also do work for the local union. I'm a labor negotiator. I'm a union steward. I handle a lot of grievances on a daily basis. I also do work for our Equal Employment Opportunity Office, and I am lucky enough to be able to use my PhD in industrial organizational psychology to do work for our process improvement department as a Lean Six Sigma facilitator. So,
Lifelong Newporter.
yes.
Why is right now the time that you chose to run for Newport City Council at Large?
Well, it really started earlier this year when I was on the Charter Review Commission. I was able to do a deeper dive into our city's charter and a lot of issues that the city is facing came up during our discussions. We had a really great team of people. We were able to have a lot of opposing conversations on things and made quite a few recommendations to changes to the charter. But as all of that was unfolding and, seeing different things that has been happening in our community, especially over the past 10 to 15 years as our travel and tourism industry has been booming. I'm a concerned citizen at this point, and I see a lot of issues with the communication and the divide between our city government and the people. There are affordable housing issue and how, there isn't enough workforce housing for people to be able to move to Newport and have a family and have their children grow up here, or our retirement community that is now on a fixed income that is having trouble staying here after they've been here for generations. So, and also seeing what's been going on with our schools, our education. The fact that Rogers has fallen into such disrepair over the years, that was a concern for me. I'm 30 years graduated from Rogers, so it's a topic of conversation, among my friends and I that have gone there, that it's fallen into such disrepair. So all of these little things kind of added up for me. And, I feel as though I have a good skill set that can be, utilized on council. So I figured, you know what, now is the time. Now is the time to get more involved and do what I can for my community.
Steph, let's see here. Keith just wrote in this. There's some static noise coming from your speaker. It's not too bad, but it may annoy some. Keith said. So what I'll do is I'll take you down. Maybe you can move it for a little bit, and we can test it here in a second. And it's okay.
Sure.
And I'll let you move it around here for a second and see if anything changes. And it's not too bad, but it may annoy some here. And let's see here.
Is it a little bit better now?
Let's see. Try again.
Okay. Is it better now?
It's still there a little bit, but we can hear you.
Okay. All right. I'll try to speak louder and hopefully that drowns it out.
Yeah, I think as long as we go slow, it'll be okay.
Okay.
Man, you just opened up so many different directions I can go right now. You touch base on it lightly, but as a concerned citizen, what are your biggest priorities? What are your biggest concerns? If people are going to walk away with this is Steph's, this is what she stands for, this is what her concerns are, this is what she's going to focus on.
So I would say first and foremost, the affordable housing, not only just to keep our subsidized and affordable housing in place and to ensure that it doesn't expire for those citizens who need it, but also for our workforce and providing, housing that is priced for our blue collar workers. And our working residents that will enable them to stay here and create a life here. Um, Obviously our education, our schools education, our children's future and being able to go through a school system that will provide them with opportunities to be able to have careers and a life in Newport, I think is very important. And also the communication, the divide that I'm hearing and that I'm seeing between our city government, our city council, and the residents, and finding ways for there to be more public interaction, for the public to feel comfortable coming forward and talking about their issues and knowing that they're being heard, that there are people that care and are listening to what they have to say and want to help, because that sense of community that I grew up in, I feel as though that has fallen by the wayside. I grew up in a community where families helped families, neighbors helped neighbors. Our city government and our people were helping each other. The people were supportive of local business owners, our police and our fire departments, and vice versa. And I feel as though that has fallen greatly by the wayside in the pursuit of having a booming travel and tourism industry that is year round. So those I mean there are quite a few other issues, but those I feel as though are the top issues that are also impacting some of the smaller issues that we're facing.
Excellent. And I want to let you know that I was able to get the static out of your mic
Oh,
by
awesome.
shutting off echo. So I think we are good now.
Thank you.
How did you? I'm going to say it because I'm laughing about it now. How did you get roped into serving on the Charter Commission?
I wanted to do it.
Okay.
I wanted to do it. So I had been so I graduated with my doctorate about 6 years ago, and I took some time to just kind of decompress from that and work on a little bit of research. But towards the end of last year, I wanted to really get involved more in my community and specifically my city government. I feel as though I had developed a very solid career with the federal government. So for me, it was the right time to really give back to my community and get more involved in municipal government. And that opportunity came up, and I thought that was the perfect opportunity. There were always a couple of key issues that I had with the charter, and that was primarily how the mayor was selected and not having term limits. So, my goal in going into their charter review was to make sure that we focused on those two things and had, really good dialogue along those lines to come up with what we felt as though were a couple of good recommendations.
And well, based on that, I kind of know how this question is going to go, but only 5 questions made it to the ballot. Voters
Yep.
will see questions 6 through 10 on the ballot on October 19th, November 8th, whenever you vote. Most of them are administrative, just cleaning up some language. You and your fellow volunteers who did Omen's work over months looked at term limits, looked at how the mayor is selected, looked at a whole bunch of stuff. How do you feel with what came out of it all?
I do have to say that I was disappointed with council's reaction to things. We only had about 4.5 months really to have weekly meetings to really discuss the charter and public input. So a lot went into it, and we ended up coming up with 37 recommendations. We specifically noted in our recommendations that the ones for the mayor selection and the term limits, council should not vote on. It should go directly to the ballot. Um, Primarily due to council bias on those two things. It impacts them being on council, it impacts them campaigning. So we really wanted it to go directly to the ballot because we felt as though those were areas that the people's voices really need to be heard. So it was very disappointing that those two things especially were voted not to go to the ballot. There were a number of recommendations that were designed to clean up the charter, to bring it forward to 2022, to make the language more inclusive. We wanted our recommendations to provide, equitability and fair representation of our community. So it was disappointing that only a few of those recommendations went to ballot. And, a couple of us have continued to try to fight to have council relook at it or recommission the Charter Review Commission, and, maybe fine tune some of those recommendations that would be easier to be on ballot or to go to a special election next year. I know that one of the concerns were because there were 37 recommendations that would be too cumbersome for the voters at the ballot to have to vote on each one. And I understand that, so maybe coming up with a way of combining a lot of those recommendations so that they weren't as cumbersome for people, could be useful. But yeah, a lot of work went into it. We were very happy with our recommendations, but again, it was a little bit of a disappointment. So
If elected, is that something that you'll continue to pursue?
absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's important to have a workable charter that everyone in the community understands, and that they know that they can go to this document to see how their city is being governed, but to also see, where there are opportunities for them to be more involved in their city government, and to have a louder voice that council will listen to. So absolutely, I would do that.
We've been kind of leaning towards some of the things, maybe not pushing this forward with something the council hasn't done well. Um, is there anything else, any other action or decision or direction that council has gone recently that um, you would have liked to have seen gone in a different direction?
Yeah, the school regionalization.
We can
Um,
dive right into that.
yeah.
And the sample ballot is out, vote.ri.gov for any voter who wants to see their sample ballot, go find their polling place, request a mail-in ballot. find out where to vote on that over the next couple weeks. Question number 5 is the regional school district. People should get used to that. And I'm going to read it one more time. An act authorizing the city of Newport and town of Middletown to establish a regional school district and providing for state aid for school housing costs at school housing reimbursement rates for regional school districts, which including incentives may exceed 80% of debt service for expenditures eligible for state aid approved. If people are just tuning into this on November 8th, they are going to be so confused by that question.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Where do you fall on question 5, regional school district?
So I fully support the idea of regionalization if it is done in a way that is going to provide more opportunities for a better education for the students. You know, I think that if it had been done in a way where we were combining both communities into one school, would have been beneficial. Um, I feel like the whole process was a very rushed process to take advantage of the funding. And I felt as though there wasn't enough information provided as to how it would benefit the students from an educational standpoint, from the programs that are available to the students. And one of the things that I noticed that when the consultants were recommending what programs would be available to the students, both Middletown and Newport had anti-bullying programs um, in place. And that was one of the programs that fell off of the list with the consultants to have with our regionalized, school district. Um, and that I feel as though is an important topic that we should have within our school systems. Bullying is very prevalent, not only in school but also in the workplace. So I think it's important to really teach at the school level that isn't an acceptable behavior. So I was a little disheartened with some of the programs were not going to be proposed to carry through. Um, you know, I don't approve of it just from regionalizing the administrative piece of it. I don't feel as though that is a true definition of regionalization. And I appreciated Councilwoman Bova's recommendation to extend have the opportunity to have a special election next year. And even though we wouldn't have gotten the full amount of the savings that were proposed, we were still going to get a decent amount of savings that I feel is something that should be circulated back into the school system to provide more programs and more resources to the students. So long story short, no, I will not be voting in favor of regionalization.
If I have 2 buckets, I think it sounds like, I don't want to put you in there yourself, but you are in the bucket of we haven't seen enough. We don't know what the educational opportunities are. We don't know where the money's going. You're not.
Yes.
You're in that bucket.
Yes. Yes, I am.
If it passes, where do you think the cost savings should go?
It definitely should go back to the students. I mean, I know that we're getting a new Rogers, but we definitely need funding to sustain it and to make sure that it doesn't fall into the disrepair that the old building fell into. There should be more opportunities and support for our students uh, to be able to come up through the system and to provide them with the tools that they needed, or even the scholarship opportunities to be able to go to college if that's what they want to after school. But to provide them with a brighter future, a more stable future that they can give back to this community. I know that was one of the things that came up with the school committee forum is training up our students to be able to circulate back and be a bigger part of our community once they've graduated from high school, whether that is to become teachers, administration or other areas of the community that we can help them um, provide a path for them. So I definitely think it should go back into our education system.
You declared your candidacy at the end of June, as did all the other candidates.
Mhm.
So you've had July, August, September, 3 full months. Are your sentiments around regionalization? I don't know. Is that what you're hearing a lot about? Is that what parents, you know, I'm and I'm not going to hold you to a number, but I'm trying to understand how many people feel this way.
Um, yeah, that's a good question because I honestly don't know how. I haven't been keeping track of exactly how many people I've been canvassing to, but I do know when it has come up, 90% of the time, people are concerned about it. And they are primarily concerned with how it's going to impact their children's education, how it's going to impact their children's support system, and their opportunities later in life. So I really haven't heard many people that have been in support of it.
Usually in Rhode Island, over the years, when there's money, people always vote yes. So that's why I'm trying to understand ahead of November.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, I think if there's any opportunity that we have where funding is going to help our community, that we absolutely should look into it. But I can't justify doing it at the sacrifice of our students' education. I feel as though giving them a proper education is more important than the absolute amount of savings that we're going to receive. So yeah, if we would have received, say, 80% in savings by voting yes in November, and we end up pursuing it down the road, I can't imagine RIDE saying to us, okay, that's it, one and done. You're not going to see these savings ever again. I think that I think that there is an opportunity to get it back on the table. And yes, I think that 67% in savings is 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 good. It's still beneficial. It still will be able to provide us with better resources than what we had. Um, but from what I know about state funding and federal funding, it's never truly off the table. So my concerns, with how quickly this was done was, what was it about the funding and the savings, which I haven't gotten an answer on, that pushed us so quickly to make this decision in November. Again, what I know about federal funding is, even if you don't make it in time for the budget or a funds expiration piece, which I don't feel as though was part of this equation, that there still is always the opportunity for it. So.
We kind of went over we were negative Nancy's for a minute there and went over some of the things that city council may have not done well. We Monday quarterbacked it. Is there any decision or direction the city council has moved forward in the past that you have supported? You think they've done well?
Well, I feel as though, they have definitely helped our hospitality industry in showing their support and helping us to have a thriving travel and tourism industry. However, I feel as though there has been a lot of things that have been left behind as a result of that. So I do think that they have been helpful in that manner, getting us to that place of where we're close to being a year-round travel and tourism destination versus the May to September months that we used to be. So I think they've been helpful in that respect.
Your website, which Mark mentions, which I'm going to pull up here and run across the bottom as I mention this, and then I'm going to go back to comments. Mark says your website lists affordable housing as something you support. What are some specific steps that you think can increase affordable housing availability in Newport?
Uh, so that's a very good question. I don't necessarily think that there's a one-off answer to solving the affordable housing issue. I have found that when I do process improvement events, that having key stakeholders involved in the process, that you're able to learn a lot more about smaller problems that are contributing to the larger issue. So, you know, I don't necessarily have the right answer right now to say, well, if we did A, that's going to solve B, where affordable housing is concerned. But, I think that there's a lot of areas that we need to take a look at, getting I know that there was an ad hoc tax board that happened during the year, and that they made quite a few recommendations to how our tax process plays out, that I believe is still being looked at by our city government and by city council. But I think that that's one of the pieces that will help us with the affordable housing piece. Um, and I think that having our tax board, our planning board, our city council, um, on maybe an affordable housing commission that also is comprised of our residents, our renters, our homeowners, our business owners, so that we can see how this affordable housing crisis is impacting all aspects of Newport. I mean, I've never seen so many "we're hiring" signs throughout the city than I've seen this year. And it's even impacting us over at Newark, and Naval Station, that we're even having trouble retaining newer employees as our baby boomer generation has been retiring over the past few years. There has been multiple opportunities for hiring individuals over there, but we aren't able to retain these people because once they accept the job, they're not able to find a place to live. And, given the cost of utilities, including gas, a lot of people don't want to commute 30 minutes to an hour to come to work. So, it's starting to impact us there. So, I think that my first step would be to have an affordable housing commission that can take a look at the entire process and everybody that is being impacted by it. And, I think that that would determine where there are different holes in the process, such as, with taxes. That we can find some resolutions to. And like I said, I don't think that there's one resolution to solving this issue. I think that we're going to find that there are going to be multiple resolutions to help this problem.
There is a question on the ballot that is probably going to catch a lot of, well, there might be 10 questions that catch a lot of people by surprise. But question four, shall new cannabis related licenses for businesses, cultivation, manufacture, laboratory be issued in the city of Newport? This question is going to the voters, so even if elected, it's already before you. But any thoughts on the cannabis business in the city?
Um, you know, I think if people are gonna vote yes, the idea should be for it to provide more tax dollars back to the city. However, I feel as though there should be restrictions on it. We have restrictions on alcohol and smoking use. And so I think that there should be restrictions on cannabis use. I mean, you don't want to be in a situation where you have, parents walking with their small children's down Broadway, and have somebody walking up the street who's smoking cannabis. So, I think if it can be done in a way that it will give more back in the form of tax dollars to the city, but also done in a way that there are restrictions as to where you can smoke, I would be in support of it. But again, I think that there should be certain restrictions on it, like our alcohol and smoking use.
You are one of seven candidates. People will choose four out of seven for at large. Um, what unique experience? What makes you unique? Why should people want to have you on council at large?
I feel as though my history with Newport can be beneficial. Um, my family has very deep roots as business owners, small business owners in the community, going back to my great grandfathers to current day with my brothers. So I do understand, commerce and the importance of small business. Growing up here, I went through the school system. So I also worked for the school department after graduating. I was a paraeducator through K through 12. I worked in the hospitality industry for over 20 years in local restaurants, local hotels. So I have an understanding of our travel and tourism industry. I worked in sales and marketing in those areas. I also have a background in investment finances. I worked for Fidelity Investments for a number of years. But I feel as though primarily the work that I do for the Naval Undersea Warfare Center is going to be, very beneficial. Being a contracts negotiator for a number of years, I understand the contracting process. I also do work for the local union, the National Association for Government Employees. I'm a labor negotiator and, union steward, so I handle a lot of grievances on a daily basis. That's been one of the pieces of canvassing that I've loved the most is listening to people's concerns. But I also do work, with the Equal Opportunity Employment Office with the Federal Women's Program. So I understand the importance of diversity and having equitability and fair representation. Um, and again, with my work with process improvement, I do know how to get the right people to the table to have the right discussions and to really do a deep dive into what the process is, figuring out what the problems and the resolutions are. And also through my work with municipal government, being on the Charter Review Commission. I'm currently on the Tree and Open Space Commission. So I feel as though my skill set kind of rounds out, touching on all the various pieces of what makes a community work, what makes it more efficient, what makes it a community, and the importance of the voice of the people.
I only have one more question, but before I get to it, is there anything else that we didn't get to that you wanted to share?
I think we pretty much covered the
We
gamut.
hit it all, huh? I was just going to ask you, and
Sure.
it's one of my favorite. But what do you love about Newport? Why do you stay in Newport?
Oh God, I love everything about Newport. Newport is like a part of my DNA. It's family to me. I love that I can walk to wherever I need to be in Newport. It's a beautiful place. We have beautiful beaches and parks, and there's a lot of family events that happen here. It's there is that community piece that I grew up with, where my brothers and I would wake up in the morning, jump on our bikes, and we'd be out all day. We'd be all over the city and with our friends. And I'd like to see more of that with the younger generations. But it's just a beautiful place to live. There's just something about it that when I'm driving over the Newport Bridge, I feel like I'm driving into just a hug. It's just home to me. So it always has been, it always will be. I want to be able to stay here. My grandmother was born and raised here. She lived to be 106. She died in her home, and the home that I own now. And I want to be able to do the same thing. I want to be able to stay here. I know other residents like me that want to be able to do the same, because to us, Newport is home. It's just always been a beautiful place to live with opportunities. So I want it to continue to thrive in that direction.
I just want to take a moment to promote. You mentioned many commissions and volunteer opportunities. City of Newport's website. If anybody wants to volunteer, get engaged, there are so many opportunities. anybody listening, you don't have to run for city council. You can serve on Tree and Open Space Commission. There's dozens of commissions and committees. Here's a great opportunity to do so. All right, Steph. Well, I appreciate it. And your website is on the bottom here, Stephanie Smyth, Newport.com. People can get in touch with you. People can read more about you. And is anything else? Did I miss anything?
No, that's it.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, wish you the very best of luck over the next 4 weeks.
Yes.
And good luck. And we'll see you around.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And you are very welcome. And if you missed any portion of this interview, you can find it on whatsupnoop.com. Again, for more information on Steph's campaign, Stephanie Smyth, Newport.com. Stephanie spelled out, Smyth, S-M-Y-T-H, and then Newport.com. And you can find out more and contact her through that way. We have many more of these coming up. Visit whatsupnoop.com for our full schedule. We have 6 of them tomorrow, all different races. From governor, school committee, and city council. So whatsupnoop.com, you can find all of these videos, compare and contrast the candidates, find their contact info, get in touch, and we hope this helps you get to know a neighbor, helps you get to know a candidate, and we thank them all for their time. Thanks for watching.